I wanted to make a quick video on one small thing that I think makes a lot of clawhammer banjo players confused. Just to clarify it, and if it's something that you notice in your clawhammer playing that might help you along your journey, then I'm glad to share this little tip. If not, hope you take something out of it. Um, the best way I can describe this one thing that people do is through the concept of bass and snare. Okay, so clawhammer banjo is founded on, or really heavily based on the concept of bass and snare, which you can find in most country songs and pretty much any 4/4 rhythm song. The bass and snare essentially is the drum that goes boom, tsh, boom, tsh, boom, tsh, boom, tsh, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare. It's a back and forth and a contrasting tone, which the bass is usually deep and the snare is usually high. Um, Pretty much all old time music is based on that rhythm, and that is a big part of what makes clawhammer what it is and what gives it its very unique sound. Um, Now, there's three parts to clawhammer, which I'm sure you're already familiar with. There's the pluck, strum, and then the drop thumb. So, three different parts constitutes a pretty unique rhythm. It sounds like this. I'm sure if you ever played banjo, you know that's pretty common knowledge. However, for those of you who may be new players, and this is including myself, I mean, I've been playing for a few years now, but when I was a new banjo player, this really confused me, and that's why I wanted to make this video to clear it up in case it's something that might be confusing you. Um, One thing that really confused me was where those three parts of the technique fit into a song. For example, when I started playing, I assumed that drop thumb, whenever I plucked the fifth string with my thumb, I assumed that was the snare. I assumed that was the last part that was played. And so it would, in my mind, sound something like bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare. It just doesn't sound right. And I couldn't really reconcile it because it doesn't make any sense. And it took a lot of practice, a lot of me listening to actual songs, especially with clawhammer banjo in it, to figure out where that snare was. Um, it really perplexed me, and it took me a while to figure it out, like several years. And so, and of course, no one ever told me that. Like, no one ever said or laid it out and explained it to me how this type of playing would fit into any sort of music. And it does. It will fit into pretty much any song if you know how that rhythm works. The best way I can describe it to you is to put it like this. This is the bass. Well, the banjo doesn't have much bass, but if you're playing along with something else, this would be the bass. So you would pluck with your whatever finger you play with. That's bass. The snare then comes after that. So it's bass, snare. And that fifth string, the drop thumb, that's right there in between the snare and then going back to bass. It's a very, very quick motion. So it sounds like this. Now, if you really want to make your clawhammer playing sound good, even in just playing rhythm, not even playing melody, if you can really get that snare down, then you will sound almost professional. The banjo pretty much is a snare instrument. I don't know how much you might know about bluegrass, but in bluegrass, the snare instrument is usually the mandolin. So while the bass plays, then the mandolin will chop. So it's like bass, mandolin. Bluegrass banjo is a little bit different because you do rolls. I don't know much about that, but it's a little bit different, all right? But with clawhammer banjo, that snare is when you strum. So you really want to put a good accent whenever you strum. And that's where the distinctive rhythm comes from. That fifth string, it adds a very unique rhythm that no other instrument has because it's able to put a note right between the snare and the returning bass. So you hear that? It's a very unique placement. perhaps the most unique thing it does is allows you to drop them within the song and play a richer melody. That's a bit of a complicated technique, but say you're playing a song and there's going to be a um, missing note because you can't quite reach it with that particular way of playing. You can drop your thumb after the snare down here and play an extra bass, and it enriches the melody. It makes it sound a little better, and again, adds the uniqueness of clawhammer that no other instrument can emulate. I can discuss how to do that in a later video. It's kind of an advanced maneuver. But back to the point, that's how the banjo fits in your song. Bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare. And once you get that down, you pretty much have everything down after that. Like Clawhammer is that easy. You can play any song, you can play any rhythm to any song. It unlocks a lot for you. Um, in my personal experience, the one song that hammered this in for me was A Quiet Time from Red Dead Redemption 2. If you listen to the song, the way the banjo is played, it does both the melody and a little bit of rhythm. And that's where you can hear whenever the banjo becomes that snare drum, that snare instrument. Here, I'll play a little sample for you and really try hard to listen to the snare because this is the song that helped me and I hope it helps you too. So you see, that song is a really easy song to play, and it demonstrates really well the snare part of the banjo. But it's also useful in playing rhythm. So if I were to play a well-known song, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" Watch how the rhythm works in this song. The circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. So that's all that I have for you. I hope that made an interesting and a good and effective point. Um, just remember, banjo snare instrument really accentuate that strum, and you should be good to go. Thanks for watching.